Hello and welcome to today's tutorial. We are going to be making the Cathedral Crochet pattern together today, and I just want to let you know those supplies that I'm going to be using today are a little bit different from the original written pattern. The only reason that I'm doing that is to make it a little bit easier to see on camera, because the original pattern I used a size F 3.75 millimeter hook. Today I'm going to be using a number 7 4.5 millimeter hook. I also started with a the original pattern has a light number 3 weight yarn, which is also, you could use a DK or maybe even a baby weight in replacement for that. And I used that with the F hook. Today for the tutorial, we are going to be using worsted weight, and I just grabbed together a couple of worsted weights from my stash because this is a great stash busting pattern. You can do as many or as few colors as you want. You could do it all in one color. I like to do the striping in 3 just because I think it makes the pattern show up really nice. So I grabbed, this is like a paint box, Simply Erin. This is Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn in worsted. This is also a Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn in worsted. When these go together, it should be just fine and work together great because we're using similar weight yarns. Now I'm going to just start with one color, and we're going to start with our base row. Now our base row is only 1 row. The actual pattern itself is a 2-row repeat. But we are going to start with a chain 49. We're going to do the sample in the same size that I made the actual pattern in for the scarf. However, I do also want to just quick talk with you about how we would size this up if you want to make this into an Afghan. Each of the repeats going across is 15 chains. So what does it mean when I say that the repeat is 15 across? That means it is a multiples of 15. So depending on how large you want your blanket, if you're using a worsted weight yarn, typically that's around 150 to 200 stitches. So you're going to count out multiples of 15 up to that point. So I believe like 10 repeats would be 150 stitches. We'll just pretend that that's what we're going to chain out. So 150 stitches, but you need to add 4 more chains to equal 154 chains, because this is just your repeat. This takes care of your turning chain and the last chain of the repeat going across. But this is how you decide how big you want the piece to be. You can do the same thing with a scarf. You can do the same thing with anything you're using a pattern that has a multiple of plus. So when you're looking at this, your multiples are your chain, then you add plus whatever it says to get this many chains so that you have enough to get your foundation row. Okay? Oh, my pencil does not want to cooperate today. Foundation is what we're looking at here. All right, so enough of that lesson. We are going to move on to the pattern. And I'm going to get my chain 49 on here. All right, so I have my chain 49 on here. That is 3 repeats plus 4. All right, I'm going to back this off just a little bit. There we go. All right, so to start this pattern, we are going to count to the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where we're going to start our crocheting. And in this spot, we are going to put 4 double crochets. So that's 2 in the same spot, 3 and 4. In our next chain, we are going to put 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, at this point, we are going to skip 2 chains, 1, 2, we're going to single into the next. Now we're setting up stuff for the continuation of the pattern. So right now we're going to chain 2, we're going to skip 2, and we're going to do this twice and single in the next. So do it one more time, chain 2, skip 2, and single into the next. All right, we're going to skip 2 again, 1, 2, but we're not going to chain 2 this time. Just skip 2 and do 3 double crochets into the next chain. 1, 2, and 3. Now, pattern says in the next 2 chains, we're going to do 4 double crochet in each. So in this one, 1, 2, 3, and 4. See how it's starting to curve? We're going to do that in the next chain as well. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, instructions tell us that in the next chain, we are going to put 3. So if I can grab that little nub, there we go. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to kind of start repeating this little section right here over the next chunk. So we're going to skip 2, 1, 2, and we're going to single. Now here we chain 2, skip 2, and single twice. Chain 2, skip 2, single, that's once. Chain 2, skip 2, single, that's twice. Now we're going back up the hill. So we're going to skip 2, and we're going to put 3 I keep saying single, I'm sorry, double crochets. And then 4 into the next 2, because we're creating another bump. 1. This looks all wonky right now, but it'll straighten out. 2, 3, and 4. When I first started working on this pattern, I wasn't sure how this was all going to work out either, because it looks really crazy when you first begin. But believe me, it all comes together. Next one, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we've got the next one, we're going to do 3 double crochet. And that's 1, 2, 3. Alrighty, so I'm just going to unwiggle this real quick here. This is the way it's going to actually sit up against each other. Of course, we're going to have to put some stitches in there to make it do that. But the section we're working on right now is going into the valley part here. So skipping 2, single, chain 2, skip 2, chain 2, skip 2, single, and chain 2, skip 2, single. All right, so we're here at the end. What are we going to do? We got to make it match what's happening on the other end. So we're going to finish like we're going up the hillside again. And we're going to skip 2 and do 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Now we only have a couple stitches left. So we're going to put 4 in this one. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then in the last one we're just going to put 1 double crochet, because if you look at the beginning, our turning chain of 3 here, our beginning chain, counts as a double crochet. So then the 4 double crochet, the 3, and then we started the pattern over, ending with going back up the hillside with 3 double crochets, 4 double crochets, and a single, which on the opposite end is represented by our turning chain. Okay, so we're actually going to cut this color off, but I'm going to join my new one before I do that. Or not before I do that, but as I'm doing that. We're going to go with white, just to kind of make it all pop. All right, so starting row 2, and this is where our repeat is actually going to be going forward. We're going to be repeating rows 2 and 3. So we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Turn your work. We're not going to work into this first one. We're going to work into the next one over. So this is how I remember how these repeats work. We have to repeat or do a double, 2 doubles, a total of 3 times. So the way my brain works is I have a tendency to make up little songs or little repeats in my head, and I go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. All right, so it's the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 is my 3 repeats, ending with a double in this, which is how the pattern goes. So we've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. All right, now we are going to be working on closing up that big opening that we created. So when we look at this, we're skipping over this single and this chain. And we're going to work right into the chain closest to the next single crochet. Single crochet into that. Don't chain anything. Don't work in this single, but go into the very next chain. And single. All right, now we're going to skip the next chain and we're going to skip the next single crochet. And we are once again going to do our 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 repeat. You're going to be doing this a lot, so that song might get stuck in your head, or that little repeat. 1, 2, 1, 2, gotta do it again. 1, 2, and 1. That works you up the first side of the hill. Now, once you get to the top of the hill, you're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we're going to work back down the hill, which is like basically the same thing we did to start the row. And we're going to do the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 repeat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1. All right, we've gone back down the hill and we've created our arch. Now we're back in the valley where we are going to be skipping single crochets and chains and going into the chain closest to the next single crochet, skipping over that single, going into the next chain. And once again, we've got the hill. So we're going to do the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, repeat, starting in this first double crochet, skip that chain, that single, and go into that. All right, I'm going to do this. I'll be back when we get to the top. Alrighty, let's chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's do the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 down the other side. All right, we're in the valley again. Skip your single and your chain, go into the next chain. Skip your single, go into the next chain. And skip your chain and single and do your 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, it feels a little weird once we get to this turning 3 right here because we're like, oh gosh, do I work in that? Yes, we're going to work in that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. All right, here's how we finish up this row. We're going to chain 2. Next stitch is going to be a treble crochet, so yarn over twice. Go into that top, chain 3. Use that as a stitch and do your treble crochet. All right, now we're going to chain 3. We're not changing colors after that row. We'll change it after this next one. All right, this is where we're actually going to pull everybody together and we're going to start making the dips. And it's going to start looking more tight, I guess. So into this first chain 2 space, we're going to put 7 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Alrighty, now we're going down the hill. So this is going to be a lot of chain 2s and skippings. First thing we're going to do is skip the first 2 so that we can pull our fan down and make it tight. Next, we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip 2 and single. And we are going to then count out 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Skip all of those, single into the next. All right, now we just made that tight little valley there. We're going to chain 2, skip 2, and single. We're going to skip these last 2 double crochets, and into this chain 5 space, we're going to put 14 double crochet. So you'll have to keep moving them over. I end up having, it feels like it gets really tight towards the end, but you can fit them all, I promise. So there's 3 and 4 and 5. 11, 12, 13, 14. Like I said, it gets a little snug in there, but you can just move your double crochets around. It all gets very stretchy. All right, so now, once again, we're going down the hill. So we're going to skip 2. We're going to pull that fan nice and tight. We're going to chain 2, skip 2, single. Now we're making our valley, so we're skipping all 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Single in the next. Chain 2, skip 2, single. All right, put your 14 into that chain 5. Alrighty, and once you get done with that, skip your 2, put your single in, chain 2, skip 2. We're making our valley again. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and single. Chain 2, skip 2, single. All right, now in this last one, we are going to put, and we're going to basically repeat this side. So put 7 into this chain, well, it's actually a chain 7 space, but it's being broken down between 2 stitches, a treble crochet and a chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now on this side, we started with a chain 3 as our double crochet. So you can, it's your choice how you do this, because I've done it both ways and I'm not particular one way or the other. You can either double crochet into the 4th chain of this chain 7 that we started with, because that is technically our treble crochet, or you can just throw another double crochet into this space, because it doesn't make a difference. I mean, it's all dependent upon how structured you want this to be, because it really, in the end, it doesn't make a difference, and I don't like fighting with the chains. So, personal preference. All right, we are going to cut that off. Now, you can see how we're establishing this. This is going to feel wonky for the first bit, because until you get a little bit deeper into it, all of this stuff wants to splay outwards. And even when you get to way down in the pattern, this top row wants to splay outwards. So when if you're doing an Afghan or something like that, you may want to run a few stitches in here where you tighten things up a little bit, or maybe you're going to love it the way it is. I don't know. This is just establishing this pattern for you. Like I said, you can make it any size you want. So let's move on to the next color, just because I want to show you how it looks with all 3. And it's going to be the exact same 2 rows that we just did. So this is such a simple pattern. It just looks so much more intricate than it really is. So chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Turn your work. Skip this first one here. And then we do the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 pattern down the side. And just think about doing this in scraps, how much fun this could be as an Afghan, as a scarf. You could make it all neutrals. You could make it bright colors. I just think this would be super fun as a larger project as well. And it's in my bucket list to make this into an Afghan. Alrighty, so I did my 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Once again, skipping single and chain, going into the next chain single. Skip the single. There's 2 of them here, so you're going to have to skip both singles and pull it tight. All right, skip that chain and that single, and we're going to do the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Almost there. 1, 2, 1. All right, next one is chain 5. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. All right, went down the hill. Now we are skipping single and chain and going into the next chain, skipping the singles, going into the next chain, and skipping the chain and single, going into the next double with a double, and we're going to do our 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 repeat. All right, I'm going to finish this row going across because it's going to be the same thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, chain 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, skip single, chain, go into the chain, skip singles, go into the next chain, skip chain and single, and then etc. I'll be back with you over here. Okay, I've hit the end of this row. We're going to chain 2 and treble into the chain 3 from the row below. 1, 2, 3. All right, so this is going to continue. We're going to repeat the next row where we chain 3, turn, and we do 7 into this chain 2. All right, 7 in our chain 2, so we're going to skip 2 and we're going to single. Chain 2, skip 2, single. not chain anything, I'm sorry. Skip 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and single. Chain 2, skip 2, and single. And this is where we will put 14 into this chain 5 space. Okay, I have finished my sample as far as the third color is concerned. If you get to the end of the blanket or the scarf or whatever it is and you don't like the way that this flares out or puckers in, block it so that you can position it the way that you want it to look in its completion. Another handy tip is I like to tie my ends until I have time to go back and sew them in so that they don't start doing weird things and becoming unraveled as I am working on something that I'm doing a lot of color changes on, because I don't necessarily tuck my ends in on every row. As far as this pattern is concerned, I did go ahead and measure it. I am at 9 inches across on this sample. My original sample in a number 3 light is 7.5 inches across. So you can kind of take that into consideration when you are deciding on what size pattern you want to make. Thanks for joining me on today's tutorial. I hope that it was helpful for you and it helps you in your creativity going forward. If you're happy with what we did today, make sure that you give the page a like and subscribe so that you know when my other videos go up, and I'll see you at the next tutorial.